Hello everybody, and welcome to a Fundamental Games game, kind of a preview playthrough. This is called Deep Into and Back Out of the Belly of a Huge Mechanical Beast. It's a game designed by Ben Morayta, and it's a pretty cool design where the kind of concept of the game is that you get a mission to get inside this giant mechanical beast that's endangering others, and you have to find a way to turn it off, stop it, and get out of it. If we want to read the exact verbatim here, this was a creature that all humanity hoped for, a sentient robot with the capacity to self-improve by building itself new modules to solve the needs of the population. Big and small, it was an endless source of admiration and improvement of people's lives. And then you can read on, it got out of control, bad things happened, I'm sure people died, and we're here to try to solve this problem that we ourselves have created. So in the game, we're going to have ourselves a team of engineers, depending on if you play 1, 2, 3, or 4 players. And then you have one robot that's going to kind of aid you in your quest to defeat and stop this robot. So we're just going to play the solo mode. We're going to leave these extra engineers here to spectate in the distance. Maybe they're going to sit in an escape pod and get away. And we'll set up the game here. And if I make some mistakes, I'll try to point them out in the comments, or the designer might get a chance to do that if we post it on YouTube. But I'll do my best to follow the rule book as directed, and if I misinterpret, I certainly apologize. So first off, we're going to play easy mode. So in easy mode, there's different color tiles. There's green and there's yellow, and there's no color sparks on the walls. And in easy mode, it's going to be the full deck. So it's going to be 92 cards. And the more cards you have, the easier it is to do things in between bad things happening. Next off, we need to take those 92 cards, shuffle them up, and we need to split them into 4 piles. So we've got a pile of 23, a pile of 23, a pile of 23, and a pile of 23. And what we need to do is we need to separate them so that we can kind of divide what happens in the game. Reminds me a bit of Pandemic and the Epidemic cards. They're strategically layered throughout the deck so that you don't clump them all together or get one on your first turn, for example. And so there's 3 different types of tiles here. There's a power button, that's how you turn the robot off. There's a emergency hatch, that's how you can escape the robot. And then this is the trap room, which is a really bad place to be, and I don't think there's a way out of there. So what are we going to do? Well, the first thing we have to do to set up our game is flip over the power button, and it goes below the top stack of cards. And then we flip over the escape hatch, and that goes below another 23 cards, which go below the power button. And then this evil hatch goes below another 23 cards, and that will go beneath this other stack, which I have to group together properly. Oops. There we go, group together, stack that on there. We're going to group all that together, and then we put everything on top of the final stack. So we've got all of our cards together in one giant tile deck, and this will go over here. The rotation of them doesn't matter because you get to rotate them as you play anyway. So this we're going to set to the side next to our engineers. That's our draw pile, and this is where we start. So this is the entry doorway, and now we're inside the belly of a giant mechanical beast. My robot and I are here, and you can see I just put us in a little chamber here, a little bit of background music to represent time is not on our side as we work through this mechanical geary thing. Alright, so what are we going to do from here? Well, on each turn we have a couple of options, and those options include, let me just pull back my rule book here, scroll down to the turns. So each turn you can move a meeple and then perform one of 2 actions: explore a room or activate a gear, and you're going to see those gears as we progress through the room. You can move either your engineer or your robot, but you can't move both in a turn, although you can move one and do the actions of another. And then there's many other rules that we're going to come across, but too hard to explain until we face them. So let's say I want to take my action, and my brave engineer is going to come out here. So what I have to do is flip over a tile, and then you'll see on each of these tiles there is a yellow arrow. Apologize for the non-HD quality. I downloaded these in the simplest format to save space on the hard drive. Alright, what I have to do is I have to rotate that tile so that the yellow arrow is the direction that I'm coming from. And the reason that matters is it'll affect tile accessibility later on. So this happened to have an open doorway, and I walk in here into a chamber that has 2 gears and a couple of green sparks on the wall. So the green sparks are irrelevant to this game. They're just for game setup. If you want to make the game harder, you remove the green star walls. But the gears are very relevant when I decide to use them. It's a bit early in the game to decide to use those. So that would be the full length of my turn. I moved and explored. I could, on my next turn, move this guy, the robot, and explore. So what I would do is I take the next tile, rotate it so that the arrow matches the way the robot's coming from, and he goes into this room. And then we keep on proceeding like that, turn after turn. So I'm not gonna explain every move I make. Hopefully you understand what's happening there. But if you come across a room with a closed door, you still move into it, but it basically shuts behind you. So why is that relevant? Well, the purpose of the game, remember, is to turn off the beast, which we're not going to get till we have 23 cards on the board. And once we turn off the beast, there's only 2 ways to get out of it. Back from whence we came, or through the escape hatch, which is 23 cards more into the deck. But there's a danger behind that, because once you turn off the beast, it's going to start falling apart. And that's where the real time mechanism of the game comes into play. So I digress. We've explored. And again, the cool thing about playing solo mode is I don't have to remember whose turn it is, because it's always my turn. So I'm just gonna move the robot again. So now the robot has become trapped, or not trapped, but can't go back the way they came. So what that's going to mean later is, even if I found the power button, I can't get back the way I came unless I start using gears to rotate rooms. But I don't want to do that yet. I'm still going to play around. I'm going to send my robot on a distant mission. I'm just going to sit back, drink my coffee, and send the robot out. So I'm going to keep taking turns until I've found what I want to find. Now in the game, you can win the game by having a dead robot, but you can't win the game by having a dead engineer. So the engineer has to escape no matter what, but the robot could die. It just costs your company $1 bajillion. So we're just going to keep on moving this robot until I decide I don't want to move him anymore. So there he is there. We're going to move this way. And you can place a door next to a wall, because you don't have any choice in how you place the tile. You just have a choice in where you go that the tile is going to get placed. But you have to actually decide which door you're going out of before you flip over the tile. So you can't strategically choose what door it's going to be placed on, because you're basically exploring the inside of this unknown mechanical beast. Maybe we designed it and we programmed it, but maybe it found a way to adjust all of its insides without us knowing. Alright, well, I'm done my coffee break, so this guy is going to start traveling again. He'll travel out this door, flip this over, rotate. And I'm not sure if on single player mode, if easy mode might be too easy. I guess we're going to find out if I beat this game on my first official playthrough. I did playtest it one time just to get an idea of the mechanics of this mechanical beast. And Ben was very responsive to any questions I had about his game. He helped me clarify a couple of rules errors that I'd made in my original playthrough, so awesome to have a designer that's willing to tell you what the game's all about in order to make it better. And he even adjusted his rulebook already to fix up a couple things that I misunderstood. So thank you, Ben, for doing that, so I can keep on trying this game. So hopefully you see what I'm doing. I'm going through room by room by room. The yellow arrow is always aligned in a single path, and the pink doors there are ways that I can't go back. So I've now come to a place where I got to move my deck out of the way. It's kind of you probably need a lot of table space to play this game. I don't know how big these tiles will be in real life, but they do have a bit of table presence here. So you can see here I found myself into a dead end, but that's okay because I can travel really fast through this beast once I know my way around. So for example, on my next turn, you can travel as far as you want through any open doors. So I can go 1, 2, 3, 4, for example, or I could go 1, 2, 3. I can't travel through those pink doors, but I can travel anywhere else that I've been. So once you know your way around, you can race around through this mechanical beast like it's nothing else. Alright, Now remember, we're trying to find the power button, and I know from setting up the deck that the power button is 23 tiles in, so every game you play, if you're playing on easy mode, you know exactly how many tiles to expect to draw, and that's because you're basically assembling your board in a completely different way every time you play the game. There's no way, based on the number of cards that there are and the number of different paths you could take, that you'd ever actually build the same game board twice. Or the permutations to figure out the odds of that are beyond my capabilities anyway. I'm sure there could be an algorithm for that. All right, we're getting close to the end of our room here again, but that's okay. Now the beauty of Tabletop Simulator, and maybe not on a real table, is I can grab all of this and just give myself a bit more table space if I shift over a bit. Can't do that on a real table, so you'd have to make sure that everything you do is really focused on the center of the table, and maybe you'd have some house rules that you can't go past the edge of the table, just to add another layer of complexity to your board. But I will travel down just to avoid that conundrum of falling off a table. Found another dead end there, and I'm going to say we're going to send the robot to do something. So send the robot here. Now I could be activating gears at any time right now instead of going to room after room after room. So let's do an example of a gear. So let's say again, every one of these is my turn. I can do the robot or myself. Let's say I want to move the robot here and I want to take control of this gear to do something. So what does this gear do? Well, this gear will allow me to shift rooms that are in the row above it, either left or right, as many spots as I want. So let's just going to take a peek at the rules here. My apologies, just to make sure I do this right. So the way it reads is, a gear on one edge of a chamber can move the adjacent row of rooms along the wall. You move the rooms in a single direction in one position. If a room is moved past the farthest room of any other row, it must be placed on the opposite end at the position of the farthest room on that end. And I can give you a quick snapshot of the rules here. I'll show that window of my rulebook, and maybe expand it a bit here. There you go. So a gear on one edge of a chamber can move the adjacent row of the rooms along the wall, move the rooms in a single direction in one position. So I'm going to close that window capture. You can always freeze it back on that video if you wanted to read it more or find the PDF. So what that means is I can move this room here, from what I understand, or here. What I don't know is how that affects this connected room, because that then would cause a disconnection that may not work well with the game. So maybe I won't do that this time because I'm not exactly sure how to do that. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, I went through a locked door. We'll leave this guy here. And let's go 1, 2, 3. I can play with this gear instead. So what happens with this one is, if you use a gear that's in the center of a room, you can rotate it as many times as you want, as long as you rotate adjacent rooms the opposite way that many times. So if I rotated this once, I'd have to rotate this opposite once and once. If I rotated this again, I'd rotate this opposite way again. And so I can keep doing that any number of times, as long as I'm still in the room on this turn. If I go to my next turn, I would have to leave and come back to be able to activate the gear again. So I'm going to leave it like I have it set up now. I've been able to rotate the gear so that these rooms connect, and now the doorway that was going up goes down instead. That's an example of how a center gear works. We'll go on to my next turn. I'm going to move down, draw a card. I found the escape hatch, so I think I may have misorganized my deck, because this technically should be the power button. So I would want to search and take out the power button. So apologize, might have messed that up. That was in spot 20. Let's see if I can put this back there. So we're just switching out the rooms. Switched out the power button with the search button. I don't know, I might have messed other things up, but you're still going to get an idea of the gameplay, and hopefully I don't completely ruin it. So there we go, I enter the room, and you can see that room is designed intentionally so that the door closes and you can't possibly get back to the escape hatch. But I have turned off the button, dun, 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 so the countdown now starts. So what does that mean? Well, that means anytime somebody leaves a room now, that room is going to collapse because the beast is falling apart as you turn it off, or restructuring to try to stop you. So let's say I am going to take the robot's turn. I can race my robot many different ways here, but let's say I want to bring my robot here. So when I bring my robot here, I still explore rooms, but in addition to the room getting explored, the initial room that I left gets destroyed. So this room here gets destroyed, and according to the rule books, go back into there, collapsing. A room will collapse every time a meeple, engineer, or robot leaves a room after that control room is discovered. Whether by moving or exploring. When leaving a room, take note of the direction of the arrow in the collapsing room. Remove that room and take it out of the game. Starting with a room next to the start of the arrow, slide every room on that side of the same arrow one position in the direction of the arrow. So what that means is, let me close this window again. So this arrow, whoops, get my table straightened out there. So this means this is the start of the arrow. All the rooms have to move in this direction one spot. So the entire belly of the beast thing is changing and interconnecting rooms in different ways and totally altering the path that I got here. And then this thing here is gone for good. Now you only remove the row that you were in, if I read that correctly, of the same row one position in the direction of the arrow, as if they were filling the hole left by the removed room. So even though it impacts stuff above and below it, it actually doesn't move it. It only moves that same row. So there we go. So this robot, his goal is to get over here, and right now he can't go up, so he's probably going to keep exploring. But maybe I should focus on getting my player back there first. So my player wants to find his way there. One of the ways I could do that is to find a way to get back up here, and then I might even have not really a clear path, but I can rotate some stuff. So we're going to explore this room here, flip this over, rotate this. Now when I left this room here, this one gets destroyed, and everything in that row shifts down one. So that's in that row, that's in that row, and that's in that row in the same direction. In this case it would be more like a column if you're thinking of an Excel spreadsheet, but either way everything shifted down one. So again, whatever I might have been planning for could have been altered. So then I get to take another turn. Now if I look up ahead, I still can't get through these three closed doors, so it doesn't make sense to try to go back that way. But what I can do is go this way and see what happens. So flip this over, rotate, get on my board. This gets removed. Everything in this row shifts over one. All right. So now I'm here. I'm getting closer. Let's keep traveling, see what happens. But remember, each time I do this, I'm also getting closer to an escape hatch. Oh, I found a dead end. That's no good. And since I removed this room, I have to shift this over one and this over one. Now, what I don't know is if they have to be connected to something. So let me just confer to the handy-dandy rulebook. All rooms on that side of the row shift one position, including unexplored. Leave the blank spaces in the same array, even if the first position at the start of the arrow is one of these empty spaces. Alright. So yeah, it creates a room in a void here, totally messing up the belly of the beast, and at some point I could actually trap myself if I do this the wrong way. but I created an opening. So now I can go back to here and hope that maybe I find a different way out. So we put this here, rotate this so the yellow is the entrance room. I've destroyed this room, so go into the trash pile, which means this room shifts over and this room shifts over. So I didn't really find myself a way to escape. So what can I do? How can I get out of this place? Well, let's go back to the robot. Maybe we'll play around with him for a minute. Maybe he can build a path. So he goes here, this gets destroyed, these rooms shift over by 1. His turn again. He's going to go here, going to draw a card, flip it over. He's trapped in this room, but that's okay. At least he's got a way up. So he can go here, bring up another tile. Oh, he's liking this. Bring it here, flip over another tile. Just going to shift these down a little bit. Tile placement is important because if you don't place it right, then other tiles won't fit. So he's in here. So he's really close to finding his way out, this robot. He'll go here. Put this here. All right. And then on his next turn, he could go here and here. Oh, wait. First I have to destroy this one. So this one gets destroyed. This shifts up. This shifts up. Okay. Then we keep going on his turn. He goes here. This gets destroyed. This shifts over. This shifts over. This shifts over. This shifts over. Okay. And then he goes here. This gets destroyed. This shifts over. Oh no. This shifts over. This shifts over. And this shifts over. Alright, so the robot is at the original entry point, so he can find his way out of the room. The $1 million robot has been saved, or $1 billion robot. So now that leaves our hero, the engineer, stranded. So how can we get back to that robot? Well, we can activate a gear and then move. So if I wanted to, I could rotate this to the right, which rotates this to the left and rotates this to the left. Then I could rotate this to the right again to rotate this to the left and this to the left. And so now I've created an opening. So let's try that. Let's see if I can find my way back that way. So I draw a tile, flip it over. I remember I'm coming from this room, so I went up here, which means this room gets destroyed. The yellow arrow indicates that moves over there. All right. So not quite the position I want to be in, so I can again rotate my room clockwise, so I'm rotating this to the right, so I have to rotate this to the left and this to the left. Anything on the 4 adjacent spots there. All right, that's good. I'm going to keep on going. I'm going to go into here. I'm so close. So we found another gear room here. Now remember, I have to destroy this, but because I destroyed that, my room shifts over, so maybe not the most smart move on my part, knowing that that yellow arrow was there. But this also moved over, so that's not so bad, and this also moved over. Okay, so now this could be my hope here. I'm going to go here. When I go there, I get this tile. The arrow has to line up. Oh, so close. And then this room has to get destroyed, and then this shifts over, this shifts over, and this shifts over. All right. So here we are, so close to victory. So close it hurts. So now is the part where I could use this rotating wall mechanism that's in the game. And I could say I want to shift this entire adjacent wall down by 1. So that would mean this would go down, if I'm reading the rules correctly. This would go down. This would go down, this would go down. So all those rooms have shifted down 1. And I could do it again if I wanted to, but I think I'm going to leave it as is. And well, I have an idea. So now we'll say that's the end of my turn, and we go on to a new turn. So on my next turn, I'm going to move here. and then rotate my gears. But before I rotate my gears, after you move, this room has to get destroyed, and all of these tiles shift over 1 and 1 and 1. All right. I don't even have to, actually I don't have to activate anything. I can stop there, and then on my next turn I can go 1, 2, and out the escape hatch I go. So to me that would be a victory if I played everything correctly. Again, Ben, happy to have you review this video and let me know if I made any errors. I think I played it a lot closer to the way it was intended to be played, and didn't get trapped. Utilized the gears a bit, the wall gears, the rotating gears, the multiple traveling actions. The main thing that I worry that I mess up is the collapsing of rooms, because you kind of get in a freak out, and your goal is to get to the end of the game and you might forget exactly how the collapsing rooms work. There were still 58 cards in the deck, and even if I misplaced that escape hatch, I don't think it would have impacted the game too much at this point. So that has been a playthrough of Deep Into and Back Out of the Belly of a Huge Mechanical Beast. So a couple things I like about this game. Let's talk about it. I like how there is absolutely no way I could ever play this game the same way multiple times. You can see with having over 92 different tiles and them randomly being drawn, your chance of even drawing the same tile 2 times in a row in a game is very slim, let alone the sequence of tiles that you're going to draw. So the completely different game, every single game is guaranteed in this game. I like that. I like the forced escape room kind of mechanic that you put into here, because there's certain tiles that strategically are designed so that no matter what, if you go through that, you're not gonna be able to get back the way you came. You're never gonna get back to where you started the way you came, and that's not only due to the tile placement, but that's due to your collapsing mechanic, which changes the board as you're trying to move through it. Very cool, and can be frustrating in a way if you had a planned escape route and then the entire beast changed because you moved out of a room the wrong way. But I like that. And then the third thing I like is how you put in a mechanism where you can control your surroundings. So by shifting that wall, that actually allowed me to escape the belly of the beast. And by these ones here, for example, if I chose to rotate this corner gear, for example, what it would do is it would rotate all of those. Whoops, I'll undo that. This one's a bit harder to do, but what I would do is I could take this corner gear, for example, and I would, whoopsie, trying to picture how I would do it. So this is how it was, and so in essence, you would have to rotate everything around a bit difficult to do in Tabletop Simulator, but if you can envision it, you take this entire block of 3 and rotate them 90 degrees at a time until you had them in the positions you wanted them into. That's what that corner gear there does. And then there's another, these ones here have 2 corner gears, so this could rotate your entire quadrant 90 degrees at a time. And then the wall gears we've explained, and the center gears we've explained. So very cool that you have multiple styles of gears to really change up the rooms and to control how you get back. You kind of have to program your fate there. So those are a couple things I like about this game, and I look forward to seeing what Ben does with it to keep on finessing the rulebook and the gear mechanisms to how he likes it before he decides to launch or publish or do whatever he's going to do with this game. So it's been a great experience. I'm going to sign off now, and hopefully you like what you saw.